Hi there. Today, I really want to talk about what it is to be an ARC reader and whether or not it might be the right decision for you. I think that there's a lot of love and hate about ARC reading and pros and cons that are online in videos about books and reading. And so I think I bring a slightly different perspective to it. And so I thought it would be worth discussing. So, in case you don't know, an ARC reader is an advanced reader copy. That's what it stands for, ARC reading. And so you can sign up for a platform like NetGalley. I'm on NetGalley. I'm also on Penpifferi. I am also on Book Sirens. I also get some books directly from writers and from publishers. And so you can get them all sorts of ways. Essentially, you are agreeing to an honest review. So you get the copy, usually digital at this point, and then you, preferably before publication, but not too far, leave a review. And so, if you will, it's kind of a task. So I got my start a long time ago in ARC reading. So in kind of a different way. So when I left my corporate writing job, if you will, I ended up freelancing. And so some of the first projects that I really worked on were editing and proofreading books. And so I really enjoyed it. I really loved working with authors. It's something that I definitely fell out of doing because for me, it made more sense to partner with companies who had a lot of work on an ongoing basis. So I would not have to work with, 300 writers a year. Maybe I'd work with 10 companies that had a ton of work for me. And so over that time, I did get opportunities to do some ghostwriting projects. And so I would write books for other people that they would publish under their name. And I've done that a lot through companies, on Upwork, through kind of directly, um, in different avenues that I've done that on kind of as part of larger projects. I've written about a really wide range of topics, energy transmission, kind of in Africa or, parenting, right? So really, really wide range. And I'd really want those books to succeed. I spent a lot of time on them. It was something that was really important to me. So as I continued to grow my own kind of writing and marketing and kind of going in the white papers into case studies, blog posts, those types of projects, I didn't have as much opportunity to work on a lot of these fiction writing projects. And so, authors, even the clients that I did have, they might write a book a year, they may not, they may only write three books. And so I really didn't have as much time for it. So on Upwork, where I've done a lot of work, I put up kind of a service. People would reach out to me, but they would also purchase this project or service for me to do beta reading for them. And so for beta reading, I would read their book and give them, feedback, honest feedback, not as much as like a proofreader or a line editor, but I would definitely give them more feedback. And so, but they paid for it, and a lot of them couldn't afford it. So there were a lot of writers who wanted me to read for them as a beta reader, but they would pay like, $10 to read 500 pages, and that just didn't really make sense for where I was in my life. And so I really stopped doing that. And so when ARC reading became a thing for me, it was a way for really me to give back because that's really what the beta reading was, right? I did a kind of lower cost than I'd make with the rest of the projects I did. And I would kind of help writers out, but I couldn't help all of them. So I became an ARC reader. And so I read a really large number of books a year, somewhere around 300 books a year. And so I said, well, at least some of those books, should be ARC reading. I can help writers out that way. And so I know from working, on publishing projects, especially on Amazon, that reviews, especially on Goodreads, are very, very important to sales. And it's very hard to sell things without, you know, any reviews, especially without kind of more detailed reviews. And so, as an ARC reader myself, I will review anything that you send me a physical copy of. So if a writer sends me and they pay to ship me this book, I will commit to giving a review to that. And I will commit to giving a review to something that I select. So I go onto NetGalley, I request a title, they offer it to me to read. I've committed that to my schedule. I will, I think I've done 260 NetGalley reviews. I will commit to doing that in order to help you because I've committed to that. For the digital ARCs, I don't necessarily commit to leaving reviews for digital ARCs that are unsolicited because I think, especially now with AI generated books, it's so easy to just, throw a PDF over an EPUB and ask for reviews. And so for me, there has to be something. It's something I'm interested in, something I select and you grant, or if you give me a physical book. So there was some, you've invested in me reading it. And so that's sort of where I am. And some of them obviously I can leave book videos, I leave most of them on Goodreads. I have a very large LinkedIn account. So a lot of the nonfiction books I try to review there. And so I've had mostly a positive experience. There's been a few times where I definitely agreed to more than I should have. I had surgery and I had some downtime and I was really ambitious. I was like, I gotta get all these books. And I didn't end up reading as much. So it ended up being like a chore. Like it was a real to-do list item. And I don't mean to say reading is a chore, but I definitely had overcommitted. And so I definitely try to be more realistic. I do read a lot, so I can do a lot of them. But I sometimes have to be more particular. NetGalley in particular gets a lot of discussion about it. I think part of it is this percentages. So, how many of the books that you were approved for did you actually give reviews to? And so you can really have a very low number and still get the titles that you can just select for yourself. And so sometimes I've gotten myself into a hole where I've accepted too many. And so I try to not do that now. I try to be a little bit more cognizant. I've always met the deadlines, but it's not always as much fun when, you have to read, 5 books in a week that are all ARC titles. I'm also more particular about the publishers that I'll work with and the types of books that I'll work on. I like reading on my Kindle. I like loading it up, taking it with me, um, being able to just read on the go. And so I've discovered for me, the ones that you have to use the NetGalley app or one of the PDFs are not really great fits for me because it's like an extra thing that's outside of the rhythm that I've kind of established for that. Um, in terms of um, there are some publishers that will put giant watermarks, so you cannot read them. So I try not to accept them that way. I try not to read books from series, especially if it's like the 12th book in a series and I've never heard of the series. I just feel like, it's probably not enough information for me. I also will look if there's any reviews that exist already on NetGalley. If they're like, this is terrible, right? I'm not going to waste my time. And I've also become pretty narrow with the books that I will request. Obviously, if an author, a fantasy novel reaches out to me, I will help them. They send me a paper copy. As I said, I will commit to reviewing them. But in terms of, I wouldn't, request one on NetGalley because that's not necessarily my top genre. And so I'm just a little bit more particular if I have to request it. But I think if you have the opportunity and you're organized and you can commit to, providing the review and reading the book in that time frame, I think that that's really helpful. Just some things to keep in mind. I think that in terms of the reviews, they're not really looking for negative reviews. And so if, in my opinion, um, 3 is probably borderline negative. So I really try to only review books that I'm pretty sure that I'll like. And so I can give a better review. And I do like a lot of books, so that's a little bit easier. I'm always astounded by how many ARC readers accept the book and then give a 1-star rating. I'm like, no, maybe you should have just said you're not going to leave a review because you're not helping them. On the flip side, I've had some authors and publishers reach out. I've left the review, maybe I've left more than one review. I do try to be really equitable and just help them. And they just want more and more, and they press you with emails and emails. Oh, and I already did it, right? I already submitted it, but they don't know that, they didn't pay attention. And so I think sometimes there could be parties that lose sight that it's a free thing you're doing. Yes, you're getting a PDF of a book you could probably get from the library in a couple months. Um, so really the draw is not the free book, right? I mean, I hate to say it that way. There are a lot of books, a lot of great books. I know my own TBR is really, really long. So that being said, if you want to help out writers and you want to stay informed of the industry, I think it's a great thing to do. I read a lot anyway, so it gives me just new material. Um, another thing, I guess before we end the video, another thing that I have kind of discovered is that I don't want to read AI books. So I usually will try to just look for M dashes and kind of common AI writing patterns in the description. That's just kind of how I weed it out. Sometimes I'll do a sample. That's just not for me. But it's definitely a cool thing. There's no cost to getting involved in it except for your time, which of course does have value. But it's just something to think about. So let me know in the comments if you are thinking about becoming an ARC reader.